Hi, Sweat Panthers. This is Miss Peoples, your assistant principal, and today we're going to be baking Oreo spider cupcakes together. Thank you so much for joining me.
The very first thing that you want to do is make sure you wash your hands really well with soap and water. Using my good hand washing technique that we've learned in school.
Now that we've washed our hands, we need to look at our ingredients and make sure that we have everything that we need to make our Oreo spider cupcakes. To make our Oreo spider cupcakes, we're actually going to go through 3 different steps. The first step is we're going to make the cupcake itself. That part's going to be pretty easy because we're just going to use a boxed cake mix today. Of course, some of you are really great bakers and you might want to make your own cupcakes using a homemade recipe. Of course, if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. Then the second step is going to be to make the frosting for the cupcakes. And the third step, and what I think is the most fun step, is going to be to make our Oreo spiders to put on top of our cupcakes. Let's go ahead and start with our very first step, and that's going to be to make the cupcakes. So we need any kind of chocolate cake mix, and it's really important that you look on the back of your cake mix to find out what ingredients you need to make your cupcakes. And so mine says that we will need a cup of water, 3 large eggs, and a 1/3 cup of oil. So I got all of those ingredients out. Of course, we'll need something to mix all of these ingredients in. So I have my orange bowl and a whisk that I'm going to mix everything with. And then once the batter has been made, we need somewhere to put the cupcakes. So I have my cupcake pan, and I like to put my cupcakes inside of little cupcake liners. So we're going to make the batter and then put them into the cupcake pan. Then we'll let those bake, and while those are baking, we'll make our frosting. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up my cake mix. I have that all ready, and open it up, the bag that's inside of it. I also have my 3 eggs already prepared, a cup of water already measured out, and a 1/3 cup of oil. I like to use olive oil. That's just my favorite, but you can use whatever kind of oil your family likes.
Next, you need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Make sure that you're not touching your oven or using your oven without your parents' permission though.
Now that our oven is preheating, we want to place the cupcake liners in the cupcake pan that we are going to be using. So I'm taking my cupcake liners. I got these pretty silver ones because I thought it went really nicely with our cupcakes that we're making today. I'm going to take a cupcake liner and put it in each little cupcake hole on my pan. I'm curious what color cupcake liners you got. I really like these silver ones, but I know that they make all different colors of cupcake liners. So really, you can get whatever color or kind that you want. So I have my cupcake liners in my cupcake pan now, and I'm actually going to take some spray oil, and I'm going to spray a little bit in each cupcake pan or in each cupcake holder because I don't want it to stick to the foil cups. So
Just gonna do a little spray in each one. And this part is totally optional. You don't have to do this, but you can ask your parents if that's something that they want you to do. For me, it just helps the cupcake come out of the cupcake tin a little easier. So now that I have this ready, I'm going to set it aside and get ready to start making my cupcake batter. The next step on my cake mix says to mix the cake mix, the water, the oil, and the eggs in a large bowl using a whisk. So I'm going to start by putting my dry cake mix into the bowl. I have that bag open, so I'm just going to pour all of it into my bowl. And I want to make sure I get all of the mix out. Make sure I have all of it, so when I make my yummy cupcakes, we have plenty for everybody so I can share. I have my cake mix in the bowl. I'm going to add my 3 eggs. You might need your parents' help for this, but what I like to do, I like to just crack it on the side of the bowl and let those eggs fall right into the bowl. Throw the shells away when I'm done with it. You want to make sure you don't get any crunchy shells in your cupcakes. That's never fun. Sometimes it happens on accident though. So if you're cracking your own eggs and you need a little bit of help getting a shell out, then you can ask your parents for that help. I'm gonna wipe my hands off, of course. Now I'm going to add my 1 cup of water, which I already measured out. If you watched our last video together where we were baking sopapilla cheesecake, you know that I really like to measure my ingredients out so they're all ready for me to pour and I can really get into my baking. And we have 1/3 cup of oil. I'm going to pour that in as well. This is what all of those ingredients look like before we've mixed them up. Now I'm going to take my whisk and I'm going to first mash the eggs in there so it breaks them a little bit. And then I'm just going to very gently begin whisking the ingredients. I'm just going to go in circles. I'm digging all the way to the bottom while I whisk them. And really my goal is just to make sure that all of my ingredients are really well combined. We don't want people to bite into their cupcakes and there be dry cake mix in it. And we don't want people to bite into their cupcakes and there be a whole egg in the middle of their cupcake. So we really want to mix up our ingredients really well. One of the recommendations that I have that I kind of look for whenever I'm baking cupcakes or cakes or anything that I have to make a batter like this for is you really want to mix it until there's not a whole lot of lumps in your batter. So you can see that right now there's still quite a bit of lumps. We really want that to be more of a smooth batter. So I'm going to keep whisking this one with my hand and I'm holding the bowl to make sure that it doesn't slide around. Watch what happens if I don't hold it. That could be really messy if I'm not careful. So I want to hold it with one hand and whisk it with the other. And while I'm doing this, I'm really making sure that I'm scraping the sides of the bowl and scraping the bottom of the bowl. That way if there's any cake mix down there at the bottom, it's really able to get mixed into the rest of our cake batter. If you see a lump, you can use the tip of your whisk to kind of push down on it and help break that lump up. What that is it's just cake mix, the powder cake mix that is still trying to hang out together. They don't want to leave each other, so they're sticking together and it's making a lump in the cake. But we really want to try and get most of those lumps out. A couple of lumps are okay though. It doesn't have to be perfect. Of course, we like it no matter what. How is your batter looking? Is yours starting to look pretty smooth? Mine is. I think I'm going to take just a few more circles with my whisk here. I'll go one way, then I'll go the other direction. And then then I'm just gonna tap, tap, tap to try and get all of that cake mix off of my whisk. All right, friends, now that our batter is nice and mixed, it has a smooth consistency, not too many bumps, and all of our ingredients are mixed up together, I'm going to take a large spoon and I'm going to very carefully start to spoon the batter into the cupcake tins. We don't want to fill them up all the way to the top. Instead, we want to fill them about 2/3 of the way. That means if you split the cup into 3 parts, 2 of them would be filled. So I'm going to take my batter and fill one up 2/3 of the way. And if you get some on the side of the pan, that is just fine. I do it all the time. I'm going to fill, and I like to start with a scoop in each one, and then I can go back and add more batter into each cup if I want to, which looks like I'm going to, but I just want to start by filling these up first. So. A nice size scoop. Filling up each cup here. You might want to use a smaller spoon. That's up to you. I like to use the big one so that way I don't have to make as many scoops. But the best part about baking is that you really do have the freedom to do whatever you prefer. It's your kitchen, it's your dessert. So you really do get to make it your own. So if you would rather have a white cake instead of a chocolate cake, you can definitely get a white cake mix. I really like pumpkin cake, so I would get a pumpkin cake mix maybe, but really you can choose whatever. Okay friends, it's time for us to put our cupcakes into the oven. I have my cupcake pans. And I'm going to put them on the middle shelf. Please make sure that you get your parents' help for this. You never want to touch an oven by yourself. Now we're going to bake these for about 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes is up, we'll see if they're ready by sticking a toothpick in them. Some of your ovens and some of your cake mixes might ask you to bake them for a little bit less time. It's really important to check the back of that cake box to see how long your cake needs to bake in your oven. Everybody's might be a little bit different. I'll see you back in 20 minutes. Okay, Panthers, now that our cupcakes are baking in the oven, we can start working on our frosting. Remember we talked about how there's 3 different steps to making these really fun cupcakes. First step was to make the cupcake batter and bake that. Now we're going to work on the frosting, and then next we will make our Oreo spiders. So the first thing that you'll need for your frosting is a cup of butter. That's the same as about 2 sticks of butter. You need a cup of butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 2 to 3 cups of powdered sugar. So I already measured mine out. Powdered sugar. And you will need 8 Oreos finely crushed. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We have to take our Oreos and we're going to crush them up. So you should also have a couple of Ziploc bags around you. Some bags that zip like this. So we're going to want to open up one of our bags. I'm going to open up my Oreos. And I'm going to take 8 Oreos out and place them in my bag. Can y'all count with me? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Oreos all in the bag, and I'm going to zip it up, and I'm going to try and squeeze some of the air out. Zip it up there. Now we have to make these finely crushed. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this, but ask your parents how they would like for you to do it. So I'm going to take my bag of Oreos, And I'm going to put something kind of soft on my countertop here. I'm gonna lay my Oreos out and try to make sure that they're not laying on top of each other. Lay them out in the bag, and there's some air in my bag still. So I'm going to take the air out, just open it up a little bit, and squeeze that extra air out. And now I'm going to grab something hard, and I'm taking my sea salt, my Himalayan pink sea salt, and I'm going to start crushing these up. And notice that I'm not doing it really hard because I really don't want to bust the bag. I'm just gonna smash each Oreo up on the top. And you wanna make sure that you put something on your counter to protect it. We don't want to crunch our Oreos directly on the counter. That can be really dangerous for the pretty counters that we have. So we're just going to take something hard. You can use a can of vegetables. You can use some drink that comes in a can. You can even use a bowl and crunch your Oreos up with a bowl. Some people might even have a special tool that's used for this, kind of like an electric chopper. So I crushed up one side. I'm going to take them, flip them over, crunch up the other side. I didn't hit it too hard, so I didn't want to bust the bag, so I went ahead and flipped those cookies over. I'm crunching them up now. Now I'm going to mix them up in the bag a little bit so I can feel around to see if there's any large chunks. I'm going to mix. Now that we've crushed up our Oreos, we are going to go ahead and start making that cupcake icing. It's going to be an Oreo icing, so we're going to take our butter, and I'm only going to use one stick instead of two because I actually made less cupcakes. So you're going to see me put half of the amount of ingredients into my bowl, but I'm going to tell you about what you should be doing if you're following the original recipe. So you should now put 2 sticks into your bowl. I'm going to take my spoon and using the back, kind of like we did when we were smoothing out the cream cheese in our sopapilla cheesecake last time, I'm going to push on the butter. I'm going to kind of cut it, because what we really want to do is we want to help this butter kind of soften a little bit. It's already soft, but not melted. We don't want to melt it. We really want to just kind of smush it down into the bowl. And of course, butter is slippery, so it's going to move around a little bit. Of course, hold your bowl for safety. Just start smushing that butter down. I like to kind of cut it a little bit to help it out. I'm just going to smush, smush, smush until we feel like it's all nice and soft. Now that my butter is nice and smooth, I'm going to take my teaspoon measuring spoon, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla in here. Remember, you add a teaspoon, I'm going to do about half a teaspoon. Now I'm going to mix that teaspoon of vanilla into my softened butter. And vanilla just always gives anything a really great flavor. I personally love vanilla. I really like it. I'm just using my spoon, mixing it in. It's not going to mix in all the way right now, and that's okay because we're about to add some dry ingredients. So the next thing I'm going to do is take my powdered sugar, and I'm going to slowly add it in. So I'm going to add some here. Add some, and mix it up. Add a little more. And mix it up. And remember, baking is messy. It's okay. It's absolutely okay to get a little bit messy during this time, okay? powdered sugar might go everywhere, and that's fine. Totally fine. Keep adding it slowly, a little bit at a time. Just help it mix all together. Keep on mixing. You'll see once I get it kind of mixed, then I add a little bit more. And you might have something at home that you can use to make this step a little bit easier, but you'll definitely need your parents' help and your parents' permission. But you can maybe use a hand blender. You might have a stand mixer that you can use at home as well. So we're just gonna keep mixing by hand though, because I really wanted to show you how you could do this by yourself if you wanted to. Last of my powdered sugar in. Really want to mix that well until all of the powdered sugar is mixed. And I'm using the back to really push it down and make it nice and creamy as I do this, as I mix it together. I'm gonna scrape the sides of my bowl as I go, of course. Okay, so now we have our icing base, our frosting base. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our Oreos that we crunched up earlier, and we're going to pour them into our icing. And we're going to take our spoon and carefully we're going to mix it up. Very carefully, we're going to mix that icing up. Mix those Oreos into it. Don't mix it too much. You don't want it to turn gray. You really want it to just mix those Oreos in like that. My 20-minute timer just went off, and so I took my cupcakes out and I'm going to test to see if they are done. And I'm doing this by using a toothpick. And I'm going to push my toothpick down into the center of a cupcake, and I'm going to try and get all the way to the bottom and pull it up. If there's nothing left on the cupcake, there's no batter on the cupcake, then it means that my cupcakes are ready to come out. Now that we've made our first step, our cupcakes, which are cooling behind me, then we made our frosting for our cupcakes, which was our second step. It's now time for the third and most exciting step, and that is making our Oreo spiders to put on top of our cupcakes. So what you'll need for this step is Oreos and Pocky. And I like to use the chocolate Pocky. Pretty simple, right? Just 2 ingredients. So I'm going to start by opening up my Pocky sticks. They come inside of a little bag like this. And the Pocky sticks are actually going to be used for spider legs. So once I have this package open, I'm going to take a Pocky stick out. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to break it like that. I'm going to break it into a few pieces. I'm going to try and keep them about the same length. And I only want to use the parts of the Pocky that are covered in chocolate. So I'm just laying it down and kind of comparing the size so I can try to do about the same size. It doesn't have to be exactly the same size, but about the same size for each Pocky stick. Do you know how many legs a spider has? That's right, spiders have 8 legs. So each of my spiders is going to have 8 legs. So now I have all of my Pocky sticks broken up. I'm going to take my package of Oreos and open it up. And I'm going to take an Oreo and I'm going to twist it a little bit so that way it comes apart like this. You've got to be really careful. You don't want to break your Oreo. Then I'm going to take my Pocky sticks like this. And I just have to lie them down gently. I'm actually going to set this down while I do it. I'm going to take 4 Pocky sticks on that side. Four Pocky stick legs on this side. Usually the cream will stick to that side, but it didn't this time, and that's okay. And there you have your little Oreo spider. So you can see I have all of my Oreo spiders ready and waiting for us. So now I'm taking our cool cupcakes, and you can feel that they're all nice and cool. Taking my cooled cupcakes, and we want to put frosting on them first. So I'm going to take a Ziploc bag and open it up like this. I'm going to take the frosting that we made earlier, that Oreo frosting we made together, and I'm actually going to very carefully scoop it up and place it into the bag. And I'll show you why we're going to do this in just a second. It's kind of a little trick that you might want to use when putting frosting on cupcakes. I'm going to take all of that frosting, scrape it nice and clean off the bowl so we can use all of that yummy frosting we made. Then I'm going to just tap, 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 tap like this to get all of that frosting down to the bottom of the bag. And I'm going to zip it like that. And like we did earlier when we were crushing the Oreos and we took the air out of the bag, I'm actually not going to worry about that this time. So I've got my frosting down at the bottom. And now I'm going to take some scissors and I'm going to cut a corner off of my bag. So here are my scissors. Like I mentioned, we're going to cut a corner off of the bag. We don't want it to be tiny. We also don't want it to be huge. So really I'm just going to cut in a diagonal, cut a corner off, and I'm just going to put that piece to the side. Now what we're going to do with this is we are actually going to use this to pipe the frosting onto our cupcakes. So I have my cupcakes here. They're nice and fluffy. They are cooled down completely. You need to make sure that you always cool them down completely. And then you're just going to take this in your hand. And I'm going to start one. And I always like to make my very first one kind of like a trial. Where if it messes up, that's okay. I don't mind. I'm not sad about it. I'm just going to kind of make it to where I'm holding it in my hand like that. I'm going to squeeze. I'm going to start squeezing the frosting onto my cupcakes. And when I do, I'm going to go in kind of a circular motion like this. And it doesn't have to be perfect. These are our cupcakes, right? We are the baker. We are the ones that get to decide what our cupcakes look like. So if you want to do a little design on them, you can. I'm just going to squeeze on there. Mine's not going to be perfect, and I'm okay with that. always like to make the first one kind of a trial, and then I do something a little bit different to make it look a little differently the next time. I'm going to put my frosting on each of my cupcakes like this. And I went and got a butter knife, and I'm actually going to take my cupcakes and carefully I'm going to spread the icing a little bit on top of the cupcake. Again, it does not have to be perfect. So I'm just going to spread it and even it out a little bit so that way whoever eats my cupcakes gets some of that yummy icing on every bite. I'm just going to make mine look a little bit like that. I love to see how your icing turns out. Last time we baked together, some of you sent me pictures of you making your sopapilla cheesecake, and I loved seeing those. It made me so happy to see your delicious desserts and knowing that we got to bake together even though we might not be able to see each other every day at school was really nice. It made my heart so happy, as I'm sure you can imagine. I'm really happy that you're here baking with me again this week. I think that your family is really going to like these cupcakes, so you'll have to let me know how it goes for you. I'm kind of flattening it down because I want it to look a little bit like kind of like a mixture between the ground and the spider's web. So I don't want it to be perfect. I'm actually going to leave it kind of lumpy on there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Oreo spiders and I'm very carefully just going to place them onto the icing. Very carefully place them onto the icing. I'm going to put them in a different spot on each one. Get really creative. You can put them wherever you want to. That icing will be kind of like a glue, and it will help your Oreos stick to your cupcakes. Now the very last part, I'm going to take my icing and I'm going to make little eyes. I might have to use my knife a little bit for it, and that's okay. I'm just going to do two little eyes. Again, they don't have to be perfect.
Now that we've decorated all of our cupcakes and we've added our spiders to them, it's my favorite time when we get to try them together. Spicewood Panthers, it was so great to bake with you again today. I can't wait to see you all soon, and I hope that you have a wonderful baking experience with your families.